welcome aboard, especially when, and Happy New Year to everybody. We really appreciate everybody taking time to attend and be part of the program today. My name is Joe McGovern. I'm the president of the Business Development Guild. I also have an environmental company called McGovern Group. We do environmental consulting and engineering, primarily due diligence for the commercial real estate and merger and acquisition industries. We always like to start out with our mission statement of the BD Guild. We think it's pretty straightforward, yet at the same time important. And that's really basically to be the premier source of education, coaching, and support for the business development profession. And with that, okay, hang on. I need to go to the next slide. There we go.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe.
Awesome. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to our Phoenix chapter president, Crystal Keilholz, manager of business development for Rosendin Electric. Crystal, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. I'm going to start off by echoing what Joe said and just tell everybody Happy New Year. Thank you so much for joining us in our first Phoenix chapter membership meeting in January. We're really excited to kick off the year with you guys. So thank you so much for joining. As Joe said, I am the Business Development Guild Phoenix chapter president, and I am the manager of business development here at Rosendin Electric in the Tempe office. Joe, you want to go to the next slide? All right, so some quick housekeeping just to start. We do have a Phoenix chapter advisory board. I just wanted to take a moment to let everybody see who's part of that advisory board, and then also say very special thank you to our advisory board for all the support in 2020. It was a challenging year, shifting to a virtual platform very quickly. Everybody pulled together and did such a wonderful job. So just thank you to the group. And then also, if you have any questions for the advisory board members, this is the group. And with that being said, if any of you guys are members here on the phone and looking to get involved with the Phoenix chapter, we are looking for committee members and we want you. So please reach out to me or Joe. We can guide you to the right contact person. Take a picture of the screen right now. We are looking for membership committee members, sponsorship, event committees, and program committee members. So we are looking to tackle this aggressively this year. So please reach out, let us know you're interested, and we'll be more than happy to see what it's going to take to get you on board. And for those of you on the phone who are not members right now of the Business Development Guild, just a quick reminder that you do have privileges as becoming a member. And those of you who membership is about to expire, remember to renew today online at businessdevelopmentguild.com. And as a member, you will get discounts to meetings, trainings, different workshops, the symposium that's coming up in February, which Joe will talk a little bit more about here shortly. You do also have access to member-only events. We will definitely look forward to seeing what we can put out this year. Hopefully, maybe towards the end of the year, get something in person going. And then receive a +1 membership registration. And what that means, or meeting registration, is if you are a member and you have somebody at your company that might be interested in learning more about business development, or somebody from your ops group who is interested in what you do, bring them to one of our membership meetings. That's what being a member means, and you can have that opportunity to bring somebody with you. You also get a subscription to the quarterly newsletter, so don't delay, go ahead and register today.
That's awesome. Thanks, Crystal. And one thing about the quarterly newsletter, we just came out with it at the end of last month, and Laura Davis was just talking about some research that Steelcase did about people going back to work and wanting to get back to the office. They have a featured article in there. It also gives updates in terms of what each chapter is doing from the chapter leadership, and a highlight from one of our national board members. So it's something that is evolving and we're kind of excited about. So just wanted to give a quick plug on that.
Hey, Joe, quick question. It's Denise. Is that blog being
Yeah.
emailed out to the members, or do you have to specifically go and look for it?
It is emailed out. Everybody has a member portal password to get it. It's on the website. And if you want that to be resent, we can send that to you. Because sometimes these emails, unfortunately, do kind of get into spam and junk. But yes, we do send that out. We can send that out again. We were planning on sending that out again anyway at the end of this week, only because when it came out for the holidays and such, it just kind of gets crazy. So.
Yeah, so if you are struggling receiving that, let me know, let Joe know, and we'll make sure that you get a copy of it.
Yep.
All right, and as Joe mentioned, we do have other chapters that are part of that newsletter. So just a quick reminder, we do have our Phoenix, Arizona chapter member, we have a Southern California chapter, and our newest addition, Denver, Colorado. So look out for events and opportunities in those other areas as well.
And, you know, with the virtual world that we're in, is that before all these meetings were live, right? And they were limited to the folks in the individual geographic area. But each chapter is going to be having bi-monthly meetings. So for instance, Southern California has something coming up on January 26th. Denver has February 11th. So it's available to all. So when we send out these emails, there'll be a summary of all the things that are coming down the road with these email announcements.
All right, and then as a previous professional business developer graduate, I just wanted to remind you guys all that registration is now open for 2021. We're really excited about this year because we are going to offer a 24/7 on-demand learning opportunity. So the courses start, I believe, Q2, Joe. So, right?
Yeah, the courses will start in the spring.
Okay.
But once it happens, there obviously what Crystal mentioned, being 24/7 on demand, it's not going to be the set schedule like we've had in the previous years. So people can take it at their own pace, and at their own, they can start whenever, starting when it first launches, really throughout the year.
Yeah, so we're really excited about this new opportunity, especially just kind of being in a virtual state this year, at least kicking off this year again. So we're really excited about the opportunity. If you have any questions, please let Joe or myself know. We'll be more than happy to answer any specific questions about the new courses that are coming up. And then we look forward to having you guys involved.
Awesome.
All right, and just to echo Joe earlier on some events that are coming, February 11th is the Denver event, and then Southern California is January 26th. The National Symposium is February, so that is going to be our half-day symposium that Joe's going to talk about here after this, but keep an eye on our website, any newsletters that you get from us, and just make sure to register for the events that are coming. We're trying to keep all of our information as current as possible going into 2021. So if you have any ideas or feedback, please let me know. All right, Joe, talk about symposium.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. I didn't mean to. I always skip ahead. I think Crystal and I always I always apologize to Crystal. I go, hey, sorry for skipping ahead and such yesterday, but whatever. Yeah, our symposium, each chapter, well, Phoenix has had a symposium, Southern California has had a symposium live, but with the virtual opportunity, we're bringing all chapters together. So it will be a half-day symposium. So each chapter will host one session. We just finished up the agenda today. We had a great call, so we're really looking forward to what agenda that we have. And we will send that out within the next week. So either by the end of this week or early next. And we'll have an opening keynote, 3 different sessions. We'll have speakers from across the country, so people bring their perspectives from all markets, really. So we really are considering this a national program. So it's something that, again, this whole virtual world kind of allows us to do something that we probably didn't think of before. That's what's kind of fun about it. So stay tuned on that. Registration is open. It's on the website if you want to save the date. Okay, real quick, I mentioned that we're going to be sending out the video in the next day or two. With that, we'll also have a digital survey. Please take a moment to share your thoughts on this. We're always looking for ways to improve, have the user experience a lot more fun and inviting. So please don't be shy in sharing your thoughts. It's something that we value very much, and we learn from every single month. We'll have a post-session networking. If anyone wants to hang out, I'll be happy to hang out with anyone. Hope you guys do. And with that, I'll turn it back to Crystal.
All right, wonderful. So we're really excited about today's topic. Dean and I are going to be speaking to the panelists. We have Arpana and Rob, so he's going to do a quick introduction for them. But we're going to talk about today on how to adapt and be flexible in setting personal and professional goals in 2021. So we're hoping that this comes at the perfect time as people are being optimistic as the year rolled over and kicking off 2021 with a fresh start. So Dean?
Thanks, Crystal.
So real quick question. So I'll stop sharing.
Yes.
I'll stop sharing and I'll bring it up and they can see Dean. And I'll probably suggest everyone to take off their video, at least for now. We do have a chat function on the right-hand side, so feel free to kind of load your questions and comments on the chat side. But with that, sorry, Dean, I'll send it back to you.
No, that's okay. And those who want to leave their video on too, because we're BD people, we like to see the interaction, facial expressions.
Okay, sounds good. Yep.
Someone starts rolling their eyes when I'm talking, I'm like, time to cut me off. So, hey, thanks. And I think, our initial discussion about, setting personal and professional goals was something that we, with Crystal and we wanted to kind of try to figure out both the personal and professional, and everything's changing so fast. We're always changing our goals, but it's really at rapid pace. And the two people that popped into my mind, Aparna and Rob, they're personal friends of mine. And Aparna and I go back even further. We work together on solar energy, renewable energy, and outreach. And we just clicked and have a really good dynamic relationship. And where she's working right now, Big Power, which is she's VP of Corporate Affairs. Am I correct, Aparna? And that's a pretty dynamic organization that's out providing renewable energy to bring water to regions across the world that don't have it. It doesn't surprise me where she is. She's a great person. I think you're all going to like what she has to say. And then Rob, of course, he's VP of Tech and Data Center. Work with HDR, one of the largest engineering firms in the world. So Rob and I, again, a good relationship, going back in the data center world, and I love working with him too. So with that, we can kind of go ahead and get started. I'm gonna have Rob's gonna focus more on the professional side, and Aparna's gonna focus on the personal side. So with that, we'll start with the question.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Dean. And as we go through this program, please feel free to use the chat option. I do have it up on my side, so we can stop at any time and answer any questions that you guys might have for Aparna and Rob. We really want everybody to be able to take something away from today that's very important to the Business Development Guild, because we're here to help the business development community. So anytime you have a quick question, drop it in the chat and I'll get to it as soon as we can, okay? So we're going to start off by asking Aparna a quick question. I know, working with Aparna over the last year, it's been very challenging managing a work-life balance through the pandemic. So how did you manage your professional goals while things were quickly changing through a virtual aspect, but still managing your work-life balance?
Yes. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I am so honored and such a privilege to be on this call. Honestly, Dean and Crystal, I couldn't think of a better way for me to kick off 2021 than to be on this call and get to meet all these amazing, beautiful people. I wish we were in person, but that's the beauty of us pivoting to a virtual environment. As Dean mentioned, Dean and I go back to 2010, 2011, when we were going into different communities and spreading the message and making sure that Arizona leads the nation in renewable energy. All that to say, he is just an inspiring leader, and I feel like having him on the advisory board is just the right decision. So Dean, thank you so much for everything. Crystal, what a great question to open up this dialogue and this discussion today. Let me be really honest with you. If I take away my virtual background, you will see what a mess and what a disaster my office space really looks like. And the only reason I share this with all of you in full transparency is because last year was hard. Being a professional in the year 2020, being a single mom, I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, to be able to juggle work from home and online school from home full time was a very, very big challenge. In fact, I'll take it a step further and say, I'm not sure how many of you have felt this or been in my shoes, but it's been the biggest challenge I've ever faced is how can I balance motherhood along with being a professional? I had a coworker for a good part of last year that literally sat right next to me with her laptop on. And by that, I mean my 7-year-old that kept asking for help from me every couple of minutes. And so a couple of things I learned, and I'm pretty sure that all of us have experienced it. The way I managed this change was, first and foremost, I just came to terms with it. I just came to terms with the fact that this is life, that this is what I am going to be doing, just so I didn't beat myself up too much, because there were so many responsibilities and roles that I had to juggle on any given day, that if I hadn't come to terms and just figured out that I gotta prioritize, there are 3 things I decided that every day, there are 3 things that I will do for work. One that needs to get done right away, one that should be done by the end of the day, and then the third was all the stuff that I would be doing the following day. And I actually whiteboarded all of those things every single morning as I made coffee, just to give myself some sanity. And over, Crystal, I kind of heard one of my mentors' voice echo in my head. Many years back, he had said to me in business school, he was my professor, that wherever you are, 100% be there. Meaning, if I was in a meeting, I was in that meeting 100%. And I tried as hard as I could to really forget all the other things that I've got to do. Similarly, when I was uploading my 7-year-old's assignments online, that's the only thing I focused on at that point in time, and not any other professional emails or notes or text messages that I had to return. So it was a hard juggle, but the beauty is that in life, oftentimes challenges end up becoming just a blessing. And so I feel like the glass is half full at all times. And I'm starting to really enjoy the world of virtual. Like, where else could we all be on one gallery view? I mean, it's a bummer I can't see you guys' faces. So, Joe, if you don't mind, can I just request everyone to turn their cameras on if they can? Just so that I could have an eye contact with them and I don't feel as weird talking to a computer screen. So there you go.
Yay.
Thank you, Rebecca. Wow. I
Good.
love all those
Well done.
smiles.
Well done.
Perfect. Yes, Stephanie's on too. And I'm not sure if you've heard the phrase, if you are excited, kindly notify your face. Have you heard that before? Because the only way I know my cheeky jokes are landing is if I can see Dean chuckle, Jamie smile, I know, okay, something is landing. So yes, that's been kind of how I have balanced, my professional with personal. And to be honest, I'm kind of really enjoying this now.
Thank you, Arpana, and thank you for everybody turning on your cameras and supporting both of our panelists today, because things are just a little bit different right now. Rob, do you have anything else you'd like to jump in and add before we move on?
Sure. So again, Crystal and Joe and Dean, thanks for inviting me. This is fun. It breaks up the monotony of the work from home and me having to pull out tape measure to really verify that the walls inside my home office are not closing in on me as they tend to do, right? And it's been difficult on some levels, but a blessing on others. Arpana talked about family. Before the pandemic, half the time I was on the road, I was traveling. The other half, I did get to work from home. But it's, I get more time to spend with my wife and my daughter, even though those challenging arguments of the fight over bandwidth between at-home school and work is tough. From a professional standpoint, so my background's mechanical engineering. I think engineers in general, if anyone is set up to socially distance, most engineers, we've been socially distanced since about junior high or so. So we're kind of wired for this in a way, but it is definitely, it's definitely challenging. When everything happened back in February and the shutdown started to happen in March and April, I think for the first month, a lot of folks were kind of like, well, okay, we'll deal with this. It was the kind of interesting aspect of opening up your personal lives and your homes and everything to your coworkers through a digital platform and media. And then as it went on and on and on for a couple of months, you started to realize that, oh, this, we have to really evolve and change the way that we do things. So myself and a few others in our organization, we, in adapting to the new world, as everyone refers to it, we broke it down to the simplest form. And we asked ourselves 3 questions. Right now, where do we stand? Right? What is our position in the market? And it didn't really matter if it was our healthcare leaders, the data center leaders like myself, commercial office, transportation. We stopped and we said, okay, right now, where do we stand? Take stock. Where do we want to be by the end of 2020? And we didn't know what the world would look like, but we knew we wanted to, we started here, we wanted to be at some point at the end of 2020. And that was just the development of the path to get there. It was the listing the unknowns, I think, that really woke us up quite a bit. Was we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if projects were going to get canceled. We didn't know if we were going to have layoffs. We didn't know how many people in our organization would be sick, would construction sites shut down, and all that. So the pathway to get from where we stood to where we wanted to be, we all recognize that we're just going to have to be flexible. And the old adage, there's no need to evolve, survival is mandatory, really came into play. You have to be flexible and keep the eye on the prize, and then just kind of go into step-by-step, mini goals. But it's been tough. I think a lot of folks, I'm very proud of the way our industry has been able to kind of overcome a lot of these challenges. And I think from our viewpoint, we see this going on well into the third quarter of 2021. So it's not just a 3-month or a 6-month. This could go into third, fourth quarter by the time everything gets settled out. So it'll be interesting to see what if the predictions we made now are true, at that point.
So Rob, real quick on that same kind of note, have you guys utilized like the SMART goal methodology? Have you tapped into that kind of thought process when you're setting those business goals?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know if we've necessarily listed out the acronym. And for those of you that don't know what the SMART acronym, it's setting goals are strategic, measurable, actionable, realistic, and timely. And yes, I had to write that down. So it's whether or not you're following it, as a dedicated format, and you're following that process, or you're just kind of organically doing it anyways. I think it's a good process. You need to know where you, as your organization, you in your professional career, and even at a personal level, that strategy of how do you get from that point A to point B. And being an engineer, and especially in the data center world, we kind of just live on data and metrics. So setting those goals that are measurable, and that's even going from to get from A to B, how many sub steps need to happen, right? And if you can set mini action plans, if you will, to get to those, and set realistic goals, right? I think the goals from last year were, hey, we want to attend and present at 3 or 4 different national conferences. Well, that's not going to happen. So we shifted to, let's write a couple different white papers. Let's do some knowledge center stuff that we can post on our website and draw traffic there. So the same end result that we wanted to kick out knowledge, it was just a different platform, and that's where you have to be flexible. And then, timely goals, try to set a schedule. Otherwise, it just kind of drags on and on and on. But recognize that the realistic set of that goal and of that acronym, and the timely, that's really the most dynamic in those two. And that's where you have to be really careful when you set these things, and be adaptable to shift.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Good perspective.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Crystal.
Yeah, great. So Arpana, I know as we've been kind of talking over the last few weeks, you did mention that there are quite a few strategic tools that you use to make sure that you stay on track with your goals. Would you mind sharing a few of those with the group?
Yes, absolutely. And, team, I just wanted to actually elaborate also on one of the points Rob made, because it goes beautifully with, some simple tools that you can use just to keep yourself organized, keep yourself productive, both, at work and at home, I was about to say, but I feel like it's all at home now because work also happens at home. But I think it's very important to recognize that in today's era of virtual and everything electronic, one thing to keep in mind is you bring your whole self to work every single day. I cannot just bring the work Aparna to my Zoom calls. I'm actually bringing the mom Aparna as well to a Zoom call. And so I really, really think that oftentimes that is so underrated. And oftentimes because we want to be really badass at our job and just kind of kick butt, take names, crush it at work, that we forget that when we come to work, especially in the era we live in, we bring our whole self. And so keeping that in mind, there are a couple of things that I tried last year and that worked really well, not just for myself, but for my team and for our Give Power Foundation. They are very simple. Nothing like E equals MC square. I'm not going to blow you away with some crazy, awesome, life-changing dynamic here, but simple things like the first one is calendar management. I wasn't a big fan of calendar management in Outlook, no matter what calendar you use, whether it's Microsoft Outlook or Gmail or what have you. But I am now my mentor and my boss in my current role, Michelle McGee, has really turned me into a ninja when it comes to calendar management. I think it's so important. So much so, the team, I also color code my calendar. I've gotten that into it simply because at a glance on Monday morning when I wake up, drinking coffee, I look at my calendar, I know exactly what's going to happen for the entire week because it's even color coded. And it's really granular. So I've kind of put all the nuts and bolts to it. So say if I was driving, we don't do much of that, but say there's a sales call or I got to meet with a client. Not only is that meeting on my calendar, but even the drive time is on that calendar, baked in, because I know exactly how much time I'm going to spend on that particular appointment. The way I've color coded my calendar, blue stands for anything that's an external meeting. Green stands for anything that's an internal meeting. Back in my sales days, green used to be for a sales call because green was the color of money, but I've kind of changed it up just a little bit since I'm not in sales anymore. Yellow is focus time. So I always make it a point that every single day, if there's a ton of blue on my calendar, which means lots of meetings, I got to make sure I carve out at least an hour of yellow, which is focus time. It's me actioning upon all the meetings I sat in. And then red is any of my personal time. So I've really, really gotten good at it. And if you ever need a one-on-one with me or talk about it one-off, I'd be more than happy to deep dive. And then the second thing that I've kind of, it's old school, but it still works, is whiteboarding. I don't know how many of us have a whiteboard in our home office, but it helps so much. I see Dean there. I probably learned it from Dean, and now I'm just seeing it as though it's mine. But I love it. I love writing an inspirational quote every morning on my whiteboard. Gets me right into the zen of doing what I got to do. And then I put all my goals there. I don't know what it is, but I love scratching off things that I've done. Physically, like I love putting a line through something I just accomplished. It gives me that sense of fulfillment. So they are simple things, but they've really, really worked for me. I was telling Crystal the other day, I got to look up the app, or maybe someone help me if you've used it. You can use virtual sticky notes or post-it notes on your computer, on your laptop. I'm not sure what it's called. Dean, do you know what I'm
I know exactly what you're talking about. I use it on my Mac all the time. You put little Post-it notes on your desktop. Boing, boing,
That's
boing.
right.
Yeah, Post-it.
That's right.
It's one of them. Yeah, it's literally called, I think, Post-it. So.
Yes. And so that really helps as well. Those have been some of my best friend strategic tools that I'll continue using this year as well. They helped me a ton in 2020.
I have a question, Aparna. Putting your calendar together and putting that color code, how much effort have you found that it takes to just do that?
Yeah, Joe, that's such a great, I initially, it took me a while to have to figure out, hey, what goes in what color coding, maybe you have to spend a ton of time, but trust me, you guys, it ends up becoming muscle memory after a point. You become so good at it that when you do schedule a Zoom call and you put it on someone's calendar, you'll color code it and send it to that person. It just becomes like a subsequent byproduct of how you manage your day. And especially if you have a team, you're managing a team, and you've got to do one-on-ones with your team members or teammates, it helps a ton. And I also think last thing I'll say is on calendar management. This is something that was kind of weird and strange when I encountered it at Tesla, but I feel like now it adds a lot of value. Is at Tesla, we used to schedule a team meeting for an odd amount of time.
Yeah.
So instead of 30 minutes, we would schedule the meeting for 27 minutes or 17 minutes. And initially I thought, oh my gosh, this is just Elon Musk being Elon. But I started to realize that honestly, it will surprise your teammates, your team members, your peers, and you just get so much more productive. Like adding those 3 to 5 minutes back into your day when your meeting ends, 3 minutes early or 5 minutes early, you just get those crucial minutes back when you can go run out, grab a cup of water, or just stretch your legs, or just stand up. And it's amazing. So I would say try that out too, and let me know how it goes, because it's working well for me.
That's an interesting thing, Aparna, because I did that a couple of times here at Hill, and people are like, hey man, why did you do it for 26 minutes? I said, I need that 4 extra minutes to go get some coffee or do a bio break. And they're like, oh, okay. But it also makes you aware that I got 26 minutes to get this done rather than a normal 30 or 60. So that's real intriguing. And going back to your point about color coding, I'm an old guy now. So I have this Disney method that we used to do where you take the foam core board with the cards and you would storyboard it out. And that's how you got to a decision-making process. And I still use that today just from, just to clear my head of the objective and get it going. But the color coding thing, to me, I've struggled with it. So there might be another workshop that you could help us with, because I find I just get scattered sometimes and I just got to stop and reassess. So good stuff there. I want to keep things moving. I got Rob on this next one. And Rob, we all know, from an operational standpoint, business development, operations, and we're always looking at that synergistic piece there with that team is, in the BD world, we got to recognize our achievements, but then where do you go from there? And not only that, when you have those goals, where do you go from there? And then how do you report that back up and making sure that everybody knows that we're achieving those goals, no matter how quickly they can change.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because a lot of people, whether it's beginning of the year, beginning of the quarter, and we get together with our teammates, we say, okay, we want to knock off these various things. We want to set goals, and some are very, very tangible. Did we win the contract with a certain client? Did we book a certain amount of business? So things like that are pretty easy to track. And kind of jumping back to parallel a little bit what Aparna said, I'll use the typical MS products, Microsoft Excel and Teams and OneNote. That's really kind of helped me twofold. Number one, it keeps everything together, and it keeps my wife happy, because I don't have a desk full of papers and post-it notes. And she said, if we're going to survive the pandemic, this is how it's going to go down. The office is going to be clean, and I respect that, and I choose life. So all that being said, though, when you're organized and you can measure those goals, you've got a pretty good chance of saying, okay, yes, we met the goal, or we got close to our goal and we were within an acceptable margin. And once you recognize that, then it's important to reflect that back to the team, right? At the next meeting, at the next, or maybe it's an email, and say, hey, guys, we did it, right? And congratulate it. And it's a good feeling to have, because you feel like you're making those progressions. And in a world of kind of every day is the same, you wake up, you grab your coffee in the kitchen, you commute to the office. You need some of that. Some of the other goals that are probably less tangible, I want to, maybe it's a self-improvement goal, or you're continuously working on things. Those are a little more difficult to track. But you should still every once in a while kind of look back and see how you've done and measure them as much as you can. One of the best ways I've found too is as you set goals, and they're usually kind of the bigger picture goals from a company structure standpoint, get a sponsor, right? Someone in your company to sponsor that particular tangible effort of we're developing new software, we're getting new client management, platform, whatever it is. And that sponsor, you can actually ask them to say, hey, can you help me understand when you think we've met this goal? So you have this outside influence saying, yeah, I think we're there, right? So not only does a sponsor help you pave the way within your organization for the effort, they can help you determine when you've achieved that goal and say, okay, are we good? Let's go on to the next one. And then you may have to revisit that goal and do some continuous updating and monitoring, make sure you're staying on track with certain things.
No, I was going to say, just to kind of tie into that, Rob, you're right. I mean, you have to have someone you can share that vision with, what that means, what it looks like. They become that person. I don't want to use the word champion, but that commonality is really important when we're developing those goals, especially when they change so fast. So our biggest thing is when to pull that ripcord and say, it ain't working, we got to go in a different direction. That's tricky too.
That's a good point, because you can get so tunnel vision and say, no, I have to achieve this. Yeah. And you need someone to get that exit strategy and say, no, you're done, back out. You gave it, one hell of a try, and it's just not happening because something changed. We didn't get it done. So that's important too, for that sponsorship or that team to say, no, shift in direction, let's go.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks, man. Crystal.
Yeah. So through my years of just being in a leadership role, Rob, for instance, I know that it's highly encouraged that you have a mentor or some type of champion. So I was curious, do you use any type of mentor or champion when it comes to goal setting and creating your goal setting process? And then can you talk a little bit the difference between the two?
Long time ago, actually, when I was with Smith Group, and I have to credit this to Mike Medici over there. He said you should find a mentor and a champion. There's the difference between the two. A champion within your organization will talk about how you can best elevate, within the firm, right? They're your supporter, and they say, hey, Crystal's great. She deserves this shot. I've got faith in her. I support her for this. Let's go, right? And they're helping you advance in your career or meet those goals. Where a mentor is kind of more the day-to-day execution of those goals. And a true mentor will give you an honest opinion as to your performance and how you're doing it. And they may turn around and say, Rob, great job at 90% of it, but there's 10% that we missed, and you need to do it. Or even have those hard conversations and say, it's Rob, it's not going the way we thought. We need to shift direction. Maybe it's a different path. It's a different focus, but they're doing that with the best intention. And you've put a lot of trust in that person to help guide you. And that mentor is paving the way or helping you with that execution strategy to meet the goal that the champion kind of lobbied for that. So I've used mentors and champions, for the last 15 years or so. And they don't necessarily have to live within your organization, right? They can be folks that are in competing, even competing organizations, right? And they help you out and they pave the way, because we're in a small industry, right? And there's a lot of friends. I know we compete for projects, right? But we all want to help each other out and see each other do well. But it's real important. Go out and find those mentors, find those champions, and then in turn be a mentor or champion to someone else that needs some help.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing, Rob. Arpana, do you meet with a mentor regularly, or have you had a mentor in the past?
Yes, in almost every role that I've been, I have, if I haven't gotten one, I've gone and I've personally seeked one out. Just because I also think, to Rob's point, it adds, they're more like your accountability buddies more than anything else. It gives you an opportunity to be accountable to somebody out. And I love the fact that Rob talked about having somebody even outside your organization. I think that's very healthy, because then you have a different perspective, a fresh set of eyes and ears and opinions and thoughts. And we all know that variety is the spice of life. So the more different people you kind of put around yourself, it's just more better you're going to be. So I fully endorse that idea.
That's great. I'm going to jump back just a little bit. Or Dean, do you want to pick up the one on distractions?
No, go ahead.
Okay, great. So I know one of my biggest challenges when I do goal setting, and I'm looking at the year 2021 ahead of me right now, is I'm a yes person. So it tends to get in the way of me actually seeing through my goals, because I like to take on a lot of different things. And unfortunately, my plate gets really overloaded. Do you guys, Arpana, we'll start with you. Do you have any tips that you can share on how you limit distractions to keep you on track with your goals that you have set ahead of you?
Yes. Look, everyone, when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So we've got to make sure that what we are saying no to is less important than what we said yes to. Because if we say yes to everything, I'm 100% sure if you prioritize that, you're probably going to ask yourself like, oh my gosh, why did I say yes to this? Because now I don't have time to be able to, and maybe it's a personal goal that now, unfortunately, you can't hit simply because you said yes to all these things. I also feel like in 2021, especially, if we continue the virtual world for a couple of quarters going in, I feel like the 500-pound gorilla we're going to wrestle is multitasking and distractions. So I feel like it's very, very important. And I'll go back to my calendar management that I said earlier. One of the ways that, and the reason why I'm such a fan of calendar management is it really limits my distractions. Everything that I'm doing is on my calendar, and my calendar is so up to date that if there is somebody else within the foundation or the organization that wants to put a meeting on my calendar, they've got full visibility into it. And so they can see if I blocked time for something. And I highly encourage everyone to block time for you in your 9 to 5 or 10 to 6. Please, please don't have lunch at your desk. I know it's just a small, simple example, but remove yourself physically from your desk and eat lunch someplace else. Make sure that you've built in enough breaks in your day that you get time to stretch. Like, this sounds so silly and so basic, but just finding the right chair and sitting upright. Or maybe you're on a call, but you stand up and take that call so you can talk with your hands, so you can walk around. It's just all those little things. But I promise you, it's just going to make your day feel so much more productive. And then you won't be distracted anymore. Because at least for me, oftentimes I'm distracted because I'm just so tired of sitting in front of my laptop. That I've just found all these small, simple tricks. Oh, Denise said something. She said, my kitchen chair. Hold on. A kitchen chair isn't great for sitting for 9 hours. That's right, Denise. Like, we can't sit on that kitchen chair for 9 hours, no matter how comfy it is. Because it's, and I also loved Laura said in the chat that I'm glad we turned our cameras on. It stopped me from multitasking. That's right. Wherever you are, be there, and there you go. Laura is now 100% in on this Zoom call. I love it. But those are just some little things that that I've done to keep myself from not being distracted.
Thank you, Arpana, for sharing it. I love the idea of scheduling out a lunch. I know that was one area that I just did not do in 2020. And it's actually a personal goal of mine this year is making sure that I sit down away from my computer and take a lunch. So today was the first time that I successfully did that. It was only like 20 minutes, but I got away from my computer and I was very proud of myself. So I'm on track. I'm getting there. Check in a few months and I'll let you know how I'm doing. Rob, do you have anything else that you'd like to add when it comes to distractions and kind of what you do to work around those, or maybe talk about your personal goals for this year, professional goals? We'd love to hear them.
Sure, from a distraction standpoint. So the irony is I make my living on design facilities that allow us to send emails and phone calls and Zoom and all that, right? The data center world. The challenge I have is you try to sit down and boom, here pops up a call, an email, and or in the beginning I used to sit with my home computer and I would turn on CNN, right, just to have something in the background. Then I find myself distracted, and I was putting in, to get the same amount of work done, I was putting in way too many hours as it was anyways, right? So a couple of things. Number one, I learned how to triage, right? So what needs to be done right now and what can wait an hour the next day, and you're not putting it off. You're just saying, hey, something else is more important, then we're going to move something up the line. One of the other things that I kind of went back to is back in college, I was on the springboard diving team, and then after college, I competed in competitive judo for a number of years. I was lucky enough to, in both instances, to have access to a high performance coach, right? That talked less about the, hey, let's go run or lift weights or do anything from a physical standpoint, but more from a mental focus standpoint, and really get into the moment and block out kind of everything. And it takes a lot of time, but you have to build up to it. So if you think that anyone is going to be able to sit down for 2 hours and block every other distraction in your life out for 2 hours, good luck. You will just find your mind wandering. So I went back and said, okay, and this sounds like a short amount of time, but you have to start there. For 15 minutes, if my phone rings, if my email pings, if a text message pops up, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to focus on this one thing, right? And write this email to someone else, or write something to, or write a paragraph for a proposal, or do whatever calculation I'm doing. And then you start building on that. And usually you can get to about 30 to 45 minutes. And then at some point you're like, okay, well, now I do have to triage and handle a few things. So it takes practice, but that's what I do personally to limit the distractions. Now, some of it, when the FedEx guy shows up and I've got my 2 dogs just barking like crazy, guess what? That's just going to happen. They're just protecting the house. So you step back, you focus again, and you work on it. As far as personal and professional goals, I sat down, and it was less about my own professional goals and more from a department standpoint. We got our business development and operations leaders together, and we said, hey, what is our goal for this year, right? And we list them out, and then more importantly, we assigned, whether you want to call it champions or anything else. Okay, you are the responsible party in charge for tracking this goal, for meeting this goal, for doing it, and then let's check in on a regular basis. How are we doing, right? And we've got. I'm not going to go into what those goals were, or targets, or anything else, but as a team, we made that commitment to say we're all on the same page. This is collectively what we want to do as a data center design group to bring us to the next level. And people use that term all the time. The next level. What is the next level? Whatever the hell you guys define it as, right? We are here, and we want to get here. For us, this is that next level. It's a very individualized thing. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rob. All right, Dean, did you have anything else to add?
So just a little closing thought, and it reminds me just, based on what I was hearing from Aparna and Rob and what we're trying to do on our day to day, someone gave me some really good advice a while back, and I'm not saying that, this is an end all be all thought process, but when I started my own consulting business back in the day, it was, you got to do a business plan. I go, well, my business plan is go out and get clients. How hard can that be? No, take a weekend and sit down as one of my mentors and said, do a business plan. And I did it, and it totally changed my perspective. What I thought going in on Friday by the time I got to Sunday. Now, one thing that another person has told me is, have you ever done one for yourself? What a business plan looks like for you? And I'm like, no. That's something else that I've been thinking about doing, is just sitting down and saying, what is that? What does it look like for 2021? And revisit it in a couple months and revisit it again. So just something to think about. Really good perspectives here. Aparna, Rob, again, appreciate your guys' time and your perspectives on things. Very, very helpful. And I kind of wanted to open it up to some questions to throw at the folks. I know we were doing the tech stuff on the side, but anything to throw at our visitors here.
Dean, I actually have a question for you on what you mentioned in terms of your business plan when you did the consulting and it changed the way you think. How would you explain how it changed once you did that from how you were doing it before?
It made me, I'll tell you what, it was kind of funny because I literally walked out of my office and I went, holy hell, I didn't even think of that. And it was more, I bit it off into chunks. What am I going to do the first 6 months? What am I going to do there? Because coming out of business school, that's how you laid these things out. What's your 6 month, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year? And that made me stop and say, it's achievable. And making those goals that I set up, that told, because I thought, oh hell, I was like Aparna when we're talking about calendars and stuff, I was like this. And then all of a sudden it just really came into focus as, I got this. I'm not afraid of what the hell I don't know what's out there. And it just totally clicked in my head, and it made me really develop. And the biggest thing too was, Joe, was coming back to that business plan in 6 months and just see where I'm at. So that was the clicky part that really made me stop and think, oh hell, I didn't have any goals. I didn't have a specific direction I was going to go. I just had to run out there and do it. It slowed me down and made me focus, and it made me think, man, I could do this.
I think that's a great point, Dean, and thanks for sharing, because actually right before this call, I watched a LinkedIn video and it talked about the importance of breaking your goals down. And I think from a corporate's perspective, every year January starts and you're trying to put together your goals for the year because you have to put it into the system from a corporate standpoint. And, then it kind of goes quiet for a while until you remember to look at it again. And that video stressed the importance of, breaking down smaller goals that you can actually hit, and checking back every 3 months and only setting 3 goals at a time so they're achievable. And now that I planned my whole year out, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to take that advice, take a step back and really break down my goals for the year in threes every 3 months, and, try to hold myself better accountable this year than at the end of the year, you're scrambling to meet all these goals and watch these LinkedIn videos, right?
Yeah. And also just to close it out was the hubris. I mean, the person that told me is, I think somebody might know, is Jim Mapstead. He's a local business guy, very successful. And I think he was laughing at me thinking, this kid, I'm going, yeah, I don't need no business plan. What are you talking about, guy? And then I walked out there going, whoa, that was, I just thought I had it covered and I didn't. So.
I also, Dean, loved the point where you said to create a business plan for you, like as an individual, as a person. And I think that's so, again, underrated. We don't spend enough time thinking about us. We are so busy thinking about other things. So I'm actually going to take that advice of yours and implement my own business plan. Hopefully I can come back to the guild and kind of share, what that plan was and what I learned from it. But I love that, Dean. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. You're part of the crew now, so good and bad. You're in. Yeah.
All right, so we have just a couple more minutes. Sorry, Dean.
No,
do we have any other last minute questions? Anybody want to chime in through chat or unmute yourself and ask Aparna and Rob before they have to get off?
I have a question. Is there a particular book that you would recommend, or anything you feel like you read again and again that's helpful for you and in your professional development?
I do. Hold on here. I'm going to my bookshelf. So got that. That's the beauty of working. Oh, I lost my thing. Here we go. That's the beauty from working from home. So this one, it's called Executing Your Strategy, right? It was part of a program management class I took a couple years ago, and it's kind of the project management 2.0, and there's a lot of just really good things that we that you can learn from this book from a business standpoint and how to set programs. And again, you talk about corporate sponsors and things like that. Kind of got that. Harvard Business Review, The Essentials. That's a good one. I picked this up in an airport after a weather delay. And I was like, okay, let's run through this. That's the $25 that I spent, although they probably overcharged me. And then this one, because I'm just a complete nerd, The Flaw of Averages. All right, it was written by a professor that I had when I took some graduate classes through Stanford by Sam Savage. It just talks about how to look at things differently and making decisions based on just averages is usually wrong on average. So that's between, if I'm not doing that, then I'm trying to find a good bourbon, and where am I going to go fly fishing next? So,
I love it. That's great.
Mackenzie, I have a book recommendation too that has changed my life. It's called Starting with Why. It's written by Simon Sinek. I'm seeing a few head nods, so maybe you guys have heard of it. But if you haven't, it is an unbelievable book. It changed my my perspective towards life and at work. He has an awesome TED Talk, Simon Sinek, for about 20 minutes, and he sums up the whole book. And basically, the book talks about that we focus a lot on what and how we are going to achieve and do things. But very rarely do we think about why are we doing what we do and how we are going to achieve it. And so he says that if we start with why, then we're going to absolutely blow past competition, blow past our personal goals that we've set for ourselves. And then he says, if your why isn't strong enough, then life's going to take you down every single time. But if you've got that strong why, no matter what comes your way, you're gonna get past it. So I highly, highly recommend that if you haven't read that book or heard of that book, please, my one humble recommendation is please read
This
it.
sounds fantastic.
And it looks like we got a few recommendations in the chat. So Dean recommended Leap and the Net Will Appear.
Yep.
And then it looks like we had Bob recommend 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And then Atomic Habit. And then it looks like we got a special thank you to both of our panelists today. So thank you, Arpana and Rob, again. Any last minute questions before we roll it over into, a quick networking session and let Rob and Arpana go, or stick around if you want to network with us? I know your time is important.
I have a general question, only because Arpana, your previous employer, is such in the news, and and this is really not to the topic. This is just more of that. And it's a really wide open topic. So I don't know if it's 25 words or less to answer. What was it like?
Oh, it was, we called it a solar coaster, because all you could do is throw your hands up in the air and scream. Every single day was something new that happened, Joe, but it was the best 8 years of my life. And I wouldn't trade it for anything else, because I learned so much. I mean, the guy, there's a method to his madness, in 2012, when he introduced the Model S, hardly anybody thought that electric cars would become mainstream. They just thought, oh yeah, those people, the 0.5% that can afford it. And then fast forward a couple years, not only is it the sexiest car on the road that's driving, but it is so efficient. It makes so much sense. I just picked up the delivery of my Model Y. I'd love to have you guys take it for a spin. It quite literally is, the best thing mankind can come up with. It's just next level, Rob, like you said, it's next level. But there was also, I'm not going to sugarcoat things. It was very hard. It's very hard to work for an Elon Musk run company because he doesn't believe in bureaucracy. He doesn't believe in levels. So it's very flat, the hierarchy. There aren't very many levels between Elon and, the guy working on the assembly line, which is a good thing. But then also it's just, he has no social skills and no surprise there. But, he would just sign off an email that he would send to all at Tesla and say, time to shrug off the barnacles. And the next day, a company would have the biggest, layoffs that we've ever seen. Like it was just very, very hard to work in an environment where every day you have to perform. Otherwise, you never know, you might not have this job. So there were some perks, there were some benefits, but also it took its toll on me after a long time. So it's a loaded question, Joe, but
I know. I saw something, I don't know if it was on LinkedIn or Facebook or I read in the paper, what have you. Elon Musk is calling for CEOs to put away their PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Right? PowerPoint presentation. Well, that's near and dear to me, only because the way I kind of prefer things. But
it's wild. He told everybody that if you're in a meeting and you can't add value to the meeting, I want you to walk out of the meeting, or I just want you to leave if it's on Zoom. Go add value somewhere. And I mean, it's not something that we can actually practically do. And then he created an anti-handbook handbook. So it was cool, but it was hard because I was the person in charge of onboarding new hires, and I had to teach them the anti-handbook handbook. And I often just found myself kind of like, how do I do this? But we had to massage a lot of his language. We got good. But man, he's the richest person in the world.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. You're the third person I know that has worked, or direct contact with him on a regular basis in that world. And they say the same thing. It drove me nuts, but it's the best experience I ever had. I got to ask, and maybe you can or can't answer this. Was it true that he had a color issue with colors like orange, or if you did something that had orange in it, boop, out the door you went? I mean, I had heard that. I don't know if it's true.
He had lots of stuff like that. He had color things. He had eye contact too. So if you're in a bathroom, if you're in the men's room and you run into Elon, he didn't like it if you looked at him with awe. Oh my gosh, this is Elon. Can I shake
what's
your
up?
hand?
Yeah.
Can I take a photo? If he's walking through a passage or he's walking in an office, everyone was told, just stay calm, look in your laptops, pretend like you don't know who's walking by, because he despised it if you said that, oh my gosh, Elon, I'm such a fan. I love you. I love our company. He doesn't like that kind of fluff. So that was kind of hard too. But you're right with the colors, because he loves the Tesla red. He doesn't call it just red. He calls it, this is Tesla red. And so the Founders Series Powerwall is painted Tesla red with his signature on it. And very few people can get their hands on that Powerwall. And his personal favorite car is the Tesla red Model S. He's still that's his signature car that he drives around in.
He launched one into space and it's red. So yeah.
Yeah. He's got many such issues, you guys. We should do an in-person business guild. I bet it's going to be a ton of fun. Imagine us chatting like this for hours.
We are looking forward to it. We'll let you know as soon as it happens, Arpana and Rob.
Yes, I'll be the first one there, you guys. First one in, last one out.
Yeah.
I love it.
Exactly.
No, Rob and Arpana, this is terrific. And Crystal and Dean, thanks for moderating the way you did. And it was a really great discussion. I took away with any number of things that I think the number one thing that reiterated to me was slowing down and taking the time to maybe kind of like put your arms around what you have rather than just be kind of a frenetic activity, right? I mean, it's a nice piece of advice, and for me, it's a great takeaway.
It's one thing I've been telling folks is it will get better, right? Whatever the new normal is, we will eventually get there. And the business world, as we know, is going to change, right? We're going to do shifts from, probably not all back to work, not all at home. There's going to be a good change, but it's coming. Have faith. We'll get there. So just stay positive, and like I started off, every once in a while stop, measure the walls in your office to make sure they're not physically closing in on you. Just prove it to yourself, and we're going to do great.
Yeah, I always say if my grandparents could have survived the Great Depression, I think we can run with this one.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, that's awesome.
All righty, gang. I'll take off, but I'll see y'all very soon. Thank you again for having us. And Dean and Crystal, thank you for moderating. Rob, you're awesome. And everyone's awesome.
You too.
I can't wait to
Thanks,
see you.
Aparna. Say hi to the family.
All
All
right.
right. Thanks.
Yes, I will. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye.
Bye, Rob. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate you.
No,
man.
thank you.
Rob,
Appreciate it,
thank
guys.
you very much. It's terrific.